Good morning, lovely people, and welcome to Lauren DeLaguna. This is the morning show where we go over the news, and I already appreciate seeing some lovely faces here. Good morning, Tommy. Rise and shine. That is correct. Good morning, Callie Nuts. It is very nice to see you here. So obviously, this is the morning show where we jump into the news. We have several articles curated for you already, but then we're going to jump into CNN, Fox, read headlines, and then choose which articles to dig into. And so let's get started. Here we go. So we have several very interesting articles. So this one is the one that we're going to start with, where a Thai woman was accused of murdering 12 friends in cyanide poisonings. Here she is. Here's a picture of her. Okay, let me bring that back. Thai police say that they have arrested a woman suspected of killing 12 of her friends and acquaintances by poisoning them with cyanide. Sarat, oh my gosh, y'all have to see this name. Oh my gosh, I'm going to share that because that's ridiculous. Y'all see this name? See this name? I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Y'all saw it. Sarat Rangiswathaporn was arrested in Bangkok on Tuesday following recent inquiries into her friend's death. The victim's family had raised suspicion after she died on a trip with Sarat earlier this month. Following inquiries, police this week said they believe Sarat had killed 11 others, including an ex-boyfriend. Police alleged that she killed for financial reasons. Jesus. Sarat had denied all charges. Thai authorities have denied her bail. 2 weeks ago, she had traveled with her friends to Rajburi province, west of Bangkok, where they had taken part in a Buddhist protection ritual at a river, police said. Shortly after, her friend collapsed and died on the riverbank. Oof. Traces of cyanide were found in her body during the autopsy. Police said her phone, money, and bags were also missing when she was found. Authorities said the other alleged victims had died in a similar way, but did not disclose further information. The murders began in 2020, they said. Wow, could you imagine killing 12 people in the span of within 3 years? Like within 2 years, really. Murders began in 2020, they said. They also didn't identify all of the victims, but named Sarat's former partner as well as 2 female police officers among the dead. Holy cow. The police have also questioned Sarat's partner, a senior police officer in the Ratchaburi province, where her friend died. The pair have recently split, Thai media reported. Police said Sarat knew all of the victims, and she may have been motivated by financial reasons. One friend who police believe was targeted had loaned her 250,000 baht, which is approximately equivalent to $7,300. Police said. The woman had vomited and fainted after having lunch with Sarat, but survived. Relatives of victims had also reported missing jewelry and cash, police said, but the families had not suspected foul play at the time, officers said, indicating that evidence gathering could be a challenge. Some bodies had also been cremated, police said. Cyanide can be detected in corpses several months after death if lethal amount was used. The poison starves the body's cells of oxygen, which can induce heart attacks. Early symptoms include dizziness, shortness of breath, and vomiting. Its use in Thailand is heavily regulated, and those found to have unauthorized access face up to 2 years in prison. Holy cannoli, that is crazy. So, long story short, if you kill your friends in Thailand, you're probably going to get caught. Alrighty. Let's head over to what is happening with Elizabeth Holmes. If you don't remember her, she was so Elizabeth Holmes, how do you explain her? She went to Stanford, or I think it was Stanford, and then she dropped out and said, oh, I'm creating this company. There's many of other people who have dropped out of college and they've been super successful. If you look at, I'm pretty sure the Facebook guy, Zuckerberg, and so many Silicon Valley people. I'm pretty sure Bill Gates, all of those people dropped out of college, and it was kind of like the cool thing to do. So she dropped out and then tried to create a machine which was able to determine any illness that you had with allegedly just a single prick of blood. But if you know anything, not anything, but if you know about biology, you would understand if you are diseased, not like a single prick of blood won't be able to determine what diseases you have because the disease isn't on every blood cell. So you would need you need a sample size of blood cells to see what potential illnesses you have. However, she was advertising this as just literally a single drop, and you could test yourself for all of these various illnesses. And she was pretending like this machine could come to fruition so that you could have one of these machines like basically in every home. And it was all just a fraud, and she defrauded, I don't even know how much money. So let's bring up that article now. Before I do, I'm going to drop this Thai article in the chat. And then I'm going to bring this article, this Elizabeth Holmes article. I'm also going to drop that in chat. And let's go there. Okay. Elizabeth Holmes delays start of prison sentence. And here she is. If you haven't seen her, she's actually very pretty. She's kind of weird woman. She does this thing where she like deepens her voice in order to sound more important. So she talks like this all the time, which I would imagine would be super annoying at like business meetings to hear a woman talk like this constantly. Should I read the entire article like this, like she does, like Elizabeth Holmes? No, I'm not going to. Disgraced Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes has delayed the start of her more than 11-year prison sentence after lodging another appeal. Holmes, 39, was convicted last year on 4 counts of fraud linked to her failed blood test startup. But under the Ninth Circuit Appeals Court rules, Holmes' surrender has been automatically delayed until the court decides on her latest bid. It is so far unclear what the ruling will come. Earlier this month, she appealed to the court to remain free on bail while a challenge to the original conviction is considered. But this was rejected by the United States District Judge Edward Davila, who said Holmes had failed to prove the appeals process would lead to a new trial. Then, late on Tuesday, Holmes' attorney appealed the ruling to the Ninth Circuit in San Francisco. And that court's rules mean Holmes can remain free on bail until the appeal is heard. In the 11th hour move, Holmes' team argued that Judge Davila's decision contained numerous inexplicable errors. Her lawyer said this included referring to patient fraud counts, even though Holmes was acquitted on charges that she defrauded Theranos patients. The prison experience Elizabeth Holmes is desperate to avoid. Let's head into that. The same legal maneuver was used to successfully by Ramesh Sunny Balwani, Ms. Holmes's co-conspirator and former business and romantic partner. He was able to postpone his sentence by about a month. Balwani ultimately exhausted his options and reported to federal prison in San Pedro, California earlier this month to begin his nearly 13-year sentence. I do wonder why his is longer than Elizabeth. I'm sure maybe my guess, because I haven't read into his stuff, is that he was lying more about the actual capabilities of the science, because I'm pretty sure he was supposed to be like the scientist. Okay. If Holmes' appeal is unsuccessful, the United States District Court of California has recommended the mother of 2 serve her time at a federal prison camp in Bryan, Texas, that allows for family visitation. But her ultimate destination has not been confirmed. Holmes was once hailed as the next Steve Jobs and said to be the world's youngest self-made billionaire. She launched Theranos after dropping out of Stanford University. Yes, I recalled. I was correct. I knew I was correct. Okay. Boasting a new blood testing device that was purportedly able to run a multitude of tests from just a few drops of blood. I'm pretty sure she said just a single drop. That was like the whole thing. But the startup fell apart in 2018 after it was revealed its technology did not work, which she was forewarned. She was forewarned that like each cell of blood does not contain all of the illnesses that you have in your body. And so it's literally impossible to test a single drop of blood and know what's wrong with people. But anyway, Holmes, who was found guilty of 4 counts of fraud last January, told the court at the time she felt deep pain for those who were misled. Well, I mean, you don't feel that much pain, do you? Because otherwise you wouldn't have done it. All right. Yeah, yikes. You could say yikes again. Good morning, Squishy Cat. It is so good to see you. Good morning, Nevaeh. Love to see ya. Good morning, Gas Control Rich. Good morning, Crisscross Applesauce. Good morning, Giant Rat. Let me put this in chat. Okay, I'm done rhyming. All right, now let's go on to this Bannon border wall issue. But before we go on, I do feel really bad for. It's crazy. You should definitely watch the documentary on Elizabeth Holmes because it tells you how actually messed up the whole situation was. Because there were people who invested in her company who really just had a lot of faith in her, like for instance, like military generals and stuff. And some of them were actually using her for medical help, like asking her to draw their blood and tell them whether or not they had various illnesses. And she was pretending as if she could. So she was putting there, which is why I think it's silly that she was acquitted of defrauding patients, I guess, because she told them beforehand that it was experimental. And then a lot of the times with patients, she would actually take like a large sample of blood and then send it to a lab to make sure that they actually were properly tested. But I mean, okay. All right, moving on. Bannon. Let me share screen. Hello. Good morning, y'all. Good morning. Okay. So Bannon associate sentenced to 4.25 years for Trump border wall. Here's the picture. All right. Okay. A decorated United States Air Force veteran who was an associate of Donald Trump's former advisor, Steve Bannon, was sentenced on Wednesday to 4.25 years in prison after admitting helping defraud donors to campaign to build the wall along the United States-Mexico border pursued by former president. Brian Kolfage, 41, was sentenced by United States District Court Judge Annalise Torres in Manhattan after pleading guilty last year to misappropriating funds for the We Build the Wall campaign, an effort that solicited public donations and, according to prosecutors, raised about $25 million. Torres also sentenced Andrew Badalotto, 58, another former Bannon associate, to 3 years in prison following his guilty plea. The infamous We Build the Wall scam will no doubt have a chilling effect on the civil participation in the political realm, the judge said. The fraudsters behind We Build a Wall injured the body politic. Kolfage, who lost his legs and right hand in a rocket attack in Iraq, led the fundraising push alongside Bannon, who was also criminally charged in the case, but received a presidential pardon from Trump during the final hours of his term. Trumpy boy, you didn't pardon the dude with no legs and no hands that served in the Air Force, but yeah, pardon Bannon. Ugh. Okay. Prosecutors said Colfage took more than $350,000 and spent it on boat payments. Yikes. Jewelry and cosmetic surgery. Well, cosmetic surgery, I mean, if he's getting like hand and foot surgery, I'm sure that crap's expensive. He also pleaded guilty to tax charges. I made a promise not to personally benefit, not anyone else, and I broke that promise, Colfage said in court before the sentence was handed down, at times wiping his nose and sniffling. I have been humiliated by my poor decisions. Oh, I mean, that's true. Colfage ignored questions from journalists as he exited the courthouse in downtown Manhattan after the hearing. Torres also ordered Colfage to forfeit $17.9 million and pay $2.9 million in restitution. Oh my God. Ugh. Okay. Cesar de Castro, a lawyer for Colfage, had proposed home detention, citing his client's medical needs. Badalotto's attorney, Kelly Kramer, sought 3 years of probation for his client, saying he was less culpable and cooperated with prosecutors. Another defendant, Timothy Shea, 52, was convicted at a trial in October. His sentencing is scheduled for June 13th. Despite being pardoned, Bannon still faces New York State money laundering and conspiracy charges over the wall under an indictment from the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who is, we talked about it earlier, it's kind of politically going after Trump, and so his cases tend to be relatively weak, especially when associated with Trump nonsense. Bannon, age 69, has pleaded not guilty. Trump's pardon covered federal crimes, but not state crimes. Construction of a border wall was a key element of Trump's hardline immigration policies during his presidency, supported by his fellow Republicans, but opposed by Democrats and immigrant advocacy groups. Alrighty. Fascinating. Well, good morning, Ian Copendog. It is always nice to see you here. Yeah, my answer money up there. Good morning, Spicy Spice. Good morning, Rada. Why are you up so early? Oh, you're on the East Coast. I don't remember Tucker Carlson making this many facial expressions. Well, this is why Tucker got fired from Fox. They were like, can we see your disgust face? And he was just like, huh? I'm Tucker Carlson. Huh? This is ridiculous. Huh? But I love Tucker Carlson. I think he's funny. It's Tucker Clock. Okay, let's head over to Scam NN. Lauren doesn't give links to losers. Okay, you're right. I don't know what that's in response to. But no. Right. Oh, I saw it, Spicy Spice. You want the link? Lauren, can I have a link if you give Rad a link? Okay. I'm not going to put the link in. I might put it in the last 30 minutes, but for now, I'm just going to keep powering through news articles. So let's head over to CNN, Scam CNN. And let's see. Help me choose an article. Okay, Russia emptied out Crimea base, satellite imagery shows. I just don't believe anything that comes out of CNN about the Ukrainian war. Ukraine war. Okay, whatever. It is probably BS, but whatever. Ooh, hold on. Actually, hold on 1 second. I'm not even using my nice mic. I have my nice mic plugged in and I wasn't even using it. Doesn't this sound better? Okay. All right. Here we go. We should be using it now. Okay. Back to this. Back to choosing a headline. Arnold Schwarzenegger says his father was sucked into a hate system by lies. These all look like really boring. Okay, this sounds interesting. Let's check this out, right? Doesn't this seem interesting? I thought it sounded interesting. Okay. with one Mississippi jail escapee found dead in a burned building after a standoff with authorities. Manhunt continues for 3 others. How is that not your head article? How is that not like, that wasn't even like the first one. Look at how crazy that headline is. And that's like way down here. How is it buried way down here? But whatever. It is what it is. Okay. Boop, boop, boop. Let's hide this. The manhunt for 3 of the escapees who broke out of a Mississippi jail continues Thursday after authorities confirmed the 4th fleeing man died in a burning building after a 2-hour standoff with law enforcement. The charge remains of Dylan Arrington, who authorities believe killed a man while on the run, were pulled from the burnt wreckage of a home in Carthage, Mississippi on Wednesday. Hinds County Sheriff Tyree Jones says the 22-year-old was found about 70 miles northeast of the Raymond Detention Center in Hinds County, where he and 3 other men climbed onto the roof and escaped overnight Saturday, according to the sheriff's office. I didn't even hear about this. And we cover the news like a lot. How did we not hear about 4 prison escapees? That's terrifying. Maybe prison escapes happen all the time, like throughout the country. I don't know how. Somebody look up how often prison escapes happen. See if this is common, because I would be curious to know. Okay. The other escapees have been identified as Casey Grayson, 24, Corey Harrison, 22, and Jerry Raines, 51. That's pretty impressive. Like really young kids and then like an old dude. I mean, I don't think I would have the cojones to escape from prison. Okay. Arrington is suspected of shooting and killing a pastor in Jackson as he fled Monday and then stealing the victim's truck and driving away, Hinds County authorities said. Disgusting. You killed a pastor? I mean, what? Like, why would... I was watching the news the other day and I saw this man fleeing from the cops, just like in and out of traffic, miles, and then kids were crossing the road. Dude stopped for like 10 minutes. Let all the cop cars catch up to him. Let the kiddies cross the road. You don't kill people. You just don't kill people to get away. Most criminals understand that, I would think. I get not all of them. Some people just don't value life. Hinds County authorities said the victim was identified by authorities and church associate as Reverend Anthony Watts of the St. Mary Missionary Baptist Church. How sad. That's horrible. On Tuesday night, authorities in Carthage, Lake County said they had received reports that one of the escapees, who they later identified as Arrington, had been spotted in the area. The next morning, Lee County Sheriff Randy Atkinson and an investigator responded to the home where the escapee was suspected of to be hiding, but had to take cover as the suspect began to fire at them from inside. Atkins said the investigator was struck in the leg and transported to a hospital. As law enforcement from several agencies responded to the scene, the suspect continued to shoot, Atkinson said. At some point during the 2-hour standoff, the home began to smoke. A few minutes later, the house is totally engulfed in flames, he said. Arrington's body was later found in the burned home, and the cause of death is under investigation. You know what I am curious about? For real though? Like, if I had escaped from prison and I did not care about other people's lives at all, as this man clearly does not because he's willing to kill an innocent pastor, I would probably kill someone, let the house get on fire, and then be like, oh, I died. And then they don't look for you anymore. It's kind of brilliant. So I wonder if they are going to test the body to make sure it's his, because, yeah, that would be tricky. Okay, meantime, authorities are still scrambling to track down the other 3 escapees, including at least one who is believed to be in another state. Raines was spotted Sunday morning at a service station in Spring Valley, Texas, the city where the Hinds County maintenance truck was also found abandoned, Jones tweeted. It is unclear if Raines traveled there alone, he said. Authorities believe another stolen truck may also be connected to the escapees, though investigators have not been able to confirm it, Jones said. A red Chevy Silverado was reported stolen near the detention center around 2:30 a.m. Sunday, and a witness described two unidentified men in the vehicle, Jones said. The vehicle was last seen Sunday morning headed onto the Mississippi Rankins Road, which is east of Jackson, he said. With the escapees still in the loose, some Raymond residents are concerned that their safety may be at risk. I'm scared for my family. I've got 3 grandchildren that are right here in town every day, all day, resident Scott Dudley told CNN affiliate WAPT. So, yeah, that bothers me. The killed pastor was some good Samaritan, and I'm going to show an image of him. He seems like a really nice man. Very sad that we lost this person. Look at how nice this man looks. And we lost him. Thank you, Ralph Rogers. I appreciate that. Lauren, if I could have a link. I think I read that earlier. Can you do my local news too? Sure, absolutely. You send an article, we will read it, or tell us what local municipality you're in, and we'll check it out. Lauren, would shock collars be appropriate for prisoners? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. We'll have to look at the 8th Amendment and check that out and see if that would be cruel or unusual punishment. But it's not punishment if you're not supposed to leave, right? Jones described Watts as a pastor who authorities believed was killed by Arrington on his getaway path as a good Samaritan who was stopped to help an individual that was obviously involved in criminal behavior and criminal activity. Investigators determined that the victim had pulled over on the side of the road Monday evening to help Arrington, who appeared to have wrecked a motorcycle that had been stolen moments earlier, according to Jackson Police Chief James E. Davis. Based on information gathered, investigators believe Arrington was shot the victim several times and then stole his truck. Oh my God, he pulled over to help him. And then he gets out of the car to help him with his crashed, stolen motorcycle, only to get shot to death. Oh my God, that's so disgusting. When police arrived on the scene, Watts was lying unresponsive in the roadway, authorities said. Watts' death was confirmed to CNN by Karen Riley, the daughter of the St. Mary Missionary Baptist Church associate pastor Carl Burton. That was the type of person he was. He always wanted help. Riley told WAPT, always wanted to know what he can do, whatever the circumstance may be. He always told you he loved you, and his spirit was so sincere, so kind, so loving to just everyone he came in contact with. Oh my gosh. So let's show these 3 men again. Or yeah, all of these men. I don't know which one. Oh, I forgot to post it back. I don't know which of these men is dead, but one of them is dead. Get these guys' faces in your memory holes, and if you see them, make sure you call the authorities. Get those faces in your memory holes. One of them's dead. I don't know which one. From left to right, Jerry Haynes, Dylan Arrington. So this is the dead one. So you don't have to worry about this guy, unless he's fake dead, the way I think he is. I think he's fake dead. This is Corey Harrison, and then Casey Grayson. So second to the left is allegedly dead. Okay, moving on. Help me choose an article. Okay, this seems interesting to me. 3 teens arrested in death of 20-year-old woman who was killed with a large rock thrown at a car. Interesting. Let's see if it's got pictures. So here are the pictures. Oh man. Okay, let's bring that article back. Boop. Okay. 3 teens were arrested in the death of 20-year-old Colorado woman who was killed when a large rock thrown at her car went through the windshields, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office said in a news release Wednesday. Oh my God, that's so sad. That's what's known in legal terms. Not that I'm an attorney, because I'm not, because I am still waiting on character fitness for Florida. But anyway, that's called a depraved heart murder, and it's like where you just don't care about the loss of life of another. And so, yeah. So through windshield, depraved heart, I'm pretty sure that's a mens rea for first degree murder in most states. So, okay. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office said in a news release Wednesday, Alexa Bartell was killed April 19 after a series of cars were hit by rocks that night. Jackie Kelly, public information officer with the sheriff's office, said in a news conference Wednesday. Authorities believe at least 7 people were hit by the rocks. Investigators arrested the 3 teens in connection with her death Tuesday night, the sheriff's office said. The 3 suspects, Joseph Conning, Nicholas Mitch, Carol Chick, and Zachary Kwok, all 18, face charges of first-degree murder. Yeah, exactly. Depraved heart is considered first-degree. So with murder, you have mens rea. So in order to have like a first-degree murder, you have to have some sort of intent to kill. And I think there's 4 different intents for most states first-degree murder. But like one of them is like you have to have the I'm blanking on the word, but you have to have like the ill-informed intent prior to it. It can't just be like accidental, or it can't be just, you have to have had the premonition of wanting to do it prior to. And depraved heart meets that level. If you don't even care, if you're willing to just like shoot a gun recklessly, that's enough for first degree murder, even if you're not necessarily trying to kill anyone. So anyway, moving on. Okay. Face charges of first-degree murder, extreme indifference, the sheriff's office said in its release. The 3 were interviewed Tuesday night, according to Kelly. And let me just show this beautiful woman. She's a beautiful victim, and I just want to honor her and, pray for her and pray for her loss and for her family. Always really sad. Any additional charges will be filed in Colorado's first judicial district attorney's office. The release said the 3 will remain in custody until their first expected court appearance Thursday, where they will be advised of the charges against them, Kelly said. CNN has reached out to the public defender's office to see if the 3 attorneys assigned to them, if the 3 have attorneys assigned to them. The arrest came as a result of cell phone device forensics. Kelly said Wednesday, authorities told Bartell's family about the arrest in the middle of the night, Kelly added. They're just so grateful, Kelly said while talking about the Bartell's family. They're still suffering from the greatest loss possible, but this is the beginning of the journey that they'll be on next. This case has touched a lot of people deeply. This was a beautiful young woman with her whole life in front of her who was simply driving home, Kelly said. That is just so sad. I do think that's pretty scant evidence, though. I don't know if cell phone data showing that you were kind of near the area at the time of, is that going to be enough to get a conviction? Good morning, your mom. Number 2 is dead. Thank you. Yes, in the previous article, it was number 2. Number 2. Choose 3, my lord. Or what was it? Choose number 1, my lord. Okay. Golden State fan. Good morning. Yep. Alrighty. I agree. It is super messed up. So long story short, don't be completely reckless with people's lives, and you probably won't go to prison. Should we go to what do you guys think? Should we check out this Russia emptied out Crimea base article feel like we have to. Let's see if there's anything else interesting. Something about the Zelensky call with Xi Jinping. We read about that yesterday. Yeah, I'm not seeing any great articles here. Let's see what Fox has to say. Foxy boy. Let's check this out. Let's make sure to turn off the volume. Look at me remembering to do stuff. Okay. She missed me back. Right on. Woo! Good to see y'all here. Arguing COVID came from China could land you on Minnesota's government bias registry, according to new bill. Minnesota State Rep Harry Niska, Republican, asked during a debate on a new bill whether praise for Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling were arguing that COVID-19 originated in China would qualify as biased speech that would put citizens on a government database. First of all, citizens' speech shouldn't put, no matter what we say other than like terroristic threats, should not be put on any government database, whether or not we're conservative or liberal or pro-choice or pro-life or hate Harry Potter. And it's not really about Harry Potter. The J.K. Rowling issue is about J.K. Rowling is accused of being a TERF, a trans radical exclusive feminist, where, in other words, not thinking trans people are truly of their preferred gender. So that's what that's about. Anyway, moving on. Minnesota lawmakers are mulling a change to state law, House File 181, that would log alleged bias incidents even when they aren't considered a crime. What? Why? The bill introduced in January would allow people to report perceived bias-related incidents, such as alleged slurs and verbal attacks, that would fall outside of the hate crimes compiled annually by the State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, according to St. Cloud Times. And here's another issue that I take. So in America, we have a First Amendment. So you're allowed to be racist. You could say the most horrible, racist, horrific things ever, and that's totally legal. Now, if you happen to be white and you hate Black people, let's just use Jewish people because I'm Jewish. So if you're white and you happen to hate Jewish people, and then you punch a Jew in the face and you're like, you dirty, and then you say a slang for Jewish people. I'm not going to say it on my show. But that would be considered a hate crime. So not only are you getting in trouble for the assault and battery, but then you could get added charges for being hateful, which I disagree with. I mean, you're allowed to be hateful in America. The crime is the assault and battery. You shouldn't be charged for the assault and battery. Your intent not your intent, but your intentions of why you're doing it really seem not important, irrelevant. So whatever. I continue. Republican State Rep Walter Hudson warned House File 181 could pose a threat to religious freedom. It seems very clear based upon their focus on motivation that they are more concerned about what's going on in people's head, which is protected speech, and that's thought crime, he told Fox News Digital in March. Okay. And then this article kind of moves on to another interesting topic. So it says transgender Minnesota lawmaker introduces bill removing anti-pedo language from state's human rights. So I'm just going to continue reading that. An exchange between Niska and fellow state rep Samantha Van D, where Niska asked several hypothetical questions about the legislation. If a Minnesota man writes an article claiming or arguing that COVID-19 is a Chinese biological weapon that leaked from the lab in Wuhan, and someone reports that article to the Department of Human Rights, is that something the Department of Human Rights should put in their bias registry under your bill? Miska asked. Vang argued that while not all incidents are considered violent or criminal, this sort of rhetoric is bias motivated. Therefore, it can be considered a bias incident. Niska said Vang's answer was very troubling. He posed another question of Vang, asking if someone wearing an I Love J.K. Rowling shirt would be added to the database. If a Minnesotan is wearing a shirt that says, I love J.K. Rowling, and someone sees that and reports them to the Minnesota Department of Human Rights as an example of gender identity or gender expression bias, is that something that the Minnesota Department of Human Rights should put in their bias database? He asked. Vang suggested this question would be better answered by lawyers and added, I'm not going to say yes or no to that question. Oh my God, we're losing our democracy. I'm just kidding. That's just what that crazy Democrat said. We're losing our democracy, but she's not wrong. But this is a republic, but that's fine. Okay. J.K. Rowling has been the center of controversy over her views and statements about transgender individuals and biological sex. Rowling first made headlines in June of 2020 after sharing a series of tweets on her thoughts regarding the concept of sex. So, yeah. So that's crazy. That is crazy, this Minnesota bill. I think it'll get quashed. Like, I think this will go up to the Supreme Court and they will say this is a First Amendment violation for the government to even be monitoring speech like this. So, yeah, I'm gonna move on to the next article. I'm gonna go ahead and click this. Boop, like that. And it will change to boop. Okay, there we go. Alrighty. There we go. Transgender Minnesota lawmaker introduces bill removing anti-PETA language from state's Human Rights Act. Let's check that out. A transgender lawmaker in Minnesota, once again, Minnesota. Get out of Minnesota while you can. Introduced a measure that would remove language from the state's Human Rights Act that currently declares PETAs are not included in protections based on sexual orientation. The proposed language has shocked and bewildered Republicans, but the bill's author says nothing in the text would weaken PETA laws. The Take Pride Act was introduced earlier this year by State Representative Leah Fink, a member of the Democratic Farmer Labor Party, and the first transgender legislator in Minnesota House history. The bill would amend Minnesota's Human Rights Act, which is described by the state as one of the strongest civil rights laws in the country. This current Human Rights Act protects against discrimination based on sexual orientation, defined as having or being perceived as having an emotional, physical, or sexual attachment to another person without regard to that sex of that person, or having or being perceived as having an orientation for such attachment, or having or being perceived as having a self-image or identity not traditionally associated with one's biological maleness or femaleness. That wasn't confusing. Easy to say 10 times. The law also includes this caveat. Sexual orientation does not include physical or sexual attachment to children as an adult. The language would be removed under Fink's proposal. Okay, and let me just show a picture of this person. Boop, that's them. So just soak that in with what you'll do with it. And let's move on. And like but we've had, like last night I interviewed somebody who is trans. We accept all kinds on this show, but gets less accepting when you involve the kiddos, you know? Can we just keep the children out of it? Okay. Reached for comment Wednesday. Fink defended the bill and told Fox News Digital that the measure updates outdated language that incorrectly ties pedos to a person's sexual orientation. Nothing in the bill changes or weakens any crimes against children or the state's ability to prosecute those who break the law. Fink said, of course, pedoness is not a sexual orientation. The language never should have been included in the statutory definition in the first place. Crimes against children are located in Minnesota's criminal statute, and again, they remain unchanged. So, okay, I guess this person's argument is, yeah, we're getting rid of this language that says that, you know, we protect people based off their sexual orientation, and sexual orientation does not include an attraction to children. And she wants to get rid of that language that says sexual orientation does not include that attraction to children, because naturally it should not include that, because that isn't a sexual orientation. That's an abomination. However, even though that's not a sexual orientation and it's not necessary to say that, it is important, in my opinion, to keep it in the legislation, just to be clear in the future, to make sure that it doesn't become a sexual orientation that becomes accepted, or if it does in society eventually become an accepted thing, at least that legislation will still protect children, because it will explicitly say in the law that it does not include children. So to be removing that, it just puts children at risk, because it makes it so that at some point in the distant future, Minnesota could change it to include a sexual attraction to, to kiddos. So anyway, in addition to the change in definition for sexual orientation, Fink's measure also includes the addition of the definition of gender identity, which Fink used throughout the proposed amendments to the state's Human Rights Act. The proposed definition reads as follows. Gender identity means a person's inherent sense of being a man, woman, both, or neither. A person's gender identity may or may not correspond to their assigned sex at birth or to their primary or secondary sex characteristics. A person's gender identity is not necessarily visible to others, according to this person. Fink's measure, according to one Minnesota House source, was incorporated into the Judiciary Policy Omnibus Bill, slated to come up for consideration on the House floor on Wednesday. Under the Human Rights Act, the definition of sexual orientation says that sexual orientation does not include physical or sexual attraction to children by an adult, or more simply described as pedophilia. The Democrats' decision to strike this language is disturbing and inexplicable. GOP House Minority Leader Lisa Dumas said in a statement to Fox News Digital. House Republicans will be presenting an amendment today to clarify that pedophilia is absolutely not a protected class under the Human Rights Act. We sincerely hope Democrats will join us in ensuring that our children are protected, Demuth added. Additional provisions in the measure offered by Fink seek to enhance sexual orientation and gender identity protections in housing, as well as ensure that nonprofits abide by non-discrimination laws. Yikes! Yikes! This is ugly. Okay, well, good morning, y'all. Checking chat. Has President Trump asked you to marry him today? Not yet. Still waiting on that. Except if you are an American and hate Jewish, it is better to say it, not white. Yeah, that's true. It's better if, like, as a Jewish person, I have to say, I'm going to be less likely to get in trouble by making fun of like a Jewish person or a Catholic person than I would by making fun of a Black or Mexican or an Asian person. Yeah. And even if I wasn't Jewish, it's like okay to make fun of Jews and Catholics, but it seems not okay to make fun of Muslims and whatever. Okay, all right. When you eventually get mad at Turtle Boy, are you going to expose the pictures he sends you of himself choking? Wow, that's a very interesting question, Michael Smith. Yeah, so he's never sent me pictures like that because we do not have a relationship like that. And I've been hearing that we're going to fight since I've met him, and we have yet to have any arguments yet. He's just a good friend, and he's always been a good friend. So, alrighty. Lauren, it isn't okay to make fun of any ethnicity or religion. I disagree. I think it isn't okay that we don't make fun of certain ethnicities or religions. I think we should make fun of all ethnicities and all religions. In fact, one of the funniest things about life is our differences as human beings and pointing out those differences. And a lot of that comes from our ethnicity and our religions. And if we're not allowed to make fun of those things, then comedy becomes very unfunny. So yeah, don't be anti-Semitic, Lauren. Okay. I just hit a Jew. Anti-Semitism. Okay. All right, we're moving on. We're moving on. Y'all are distracting me. I saw an interesting link in here. I wanted to click on it. Minnesota lawmakers considering red flag laws. Background check. Let's check that as well. I'm really digging into Minnesota today. Minnesota. I will stop overpaying for sunglasses. Thank you. Now that you mention it, I have been overpaying for sunglasses, but I will not anymore. I promise. Okay. Minnesota lawmakers considering red flag law background check expansion. Let's check that out. So Minnesota is basically going downhill. I did not realize how bad it was. The Minnesota House is considering a red flag law on Tuesday to allow the temporary confiscation of guns for people judged to be an immediate threat to themselves or others, as well as a proposal for expanded background checks for firearms transfers. Two gun measures are part of a wide-ranging public safety bill that lawmakers were expected to debate late into the night before ultimately passing. Every other industrialized nation in the world could find a way to keep their freedoms and not kill their children and their citizens, Democratic Governor Tim Walz said during a rally on the Capitol steps. We can have both. I do want to check out that statement one more time. Every other industrialized nation in the world can find a way to keep their freedoms and not kill their children. Crazy, because like when I think of other industrialized nations, like, oh, I don't know, Great Britain, no guns, so they don't have their rights to their weapons. They lost those freedoms. Australia, no guns. They lost their rights to that as well. And then also just what happened during COVID. I mean, to pretend like anywhere else in the world is nearly as free as America is such a joke. So no, they don't get to keep their freedoms. And also their kids are dying at the exact same rate. So no, everything you're saying is just, anyway. Even though, yeah, I do understand that like guns are the #1 cause of accidental death of children in the United States. We have freedom here and we're able to protect those freedoms, and COVID was clearly a test of that. And even though some states failed, most didn't. In the marketplace of ideas, in the marketplace of democracy, in laboratories of democracy in America and ended up prevailing because people were just fleeing to Florida to get away from lockdowns. Okay, first on the House agenda for the day, however, was the completion of a work that started Monday night on a contentious bill to legalize recreational marijuana. It passed 71 to 59. The Senate is scheduled to vote Friday on its own cannabis bill. The public safety bill was last of the day's agenda. Republicans pre-filed over 30 amendments to various provisions for the public safety bill, portending a long debate. Portending. Never used that word. Portending. Portending. Instead of pretending. I don't know. All right. We tackle gun violence head on in this bill. Democratic Rep. Kelly Mueller of Shoreview, chair of the House Public Safety Committee, told reporters there are common sense measures that our constituents for years have been telling us they want. Common sense. Whenever they always talk about common sense gun laws. Common sense gun laws is the Second Amendment. Don't touch it. Don't tread on me. Like, what? Y'all don't know what you're talking about. Okay, the proposals have gained traction in Minnesota this year. Now Democrats control both chambers of legislature and the governor's office, even as the national debate over preventing gun violence becomes increasingly polarized. In Michigan, Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer, flipping hate Gretchen Whitmer. She has killed so many people during COVID, signed a background check, and then she just didn't even comply with Steven Crowder's FOIA request. Just still hasn't, just does not. That's highly illegal. Signed a background check bill earlier this month and said she would sign a red flag law that is still being negotiated if it reaches her desk. But in Colorado, Democratic lawmakers killed a bill Thursday that would have banned the sale and transfer of semi-automatic firearms, illustrating that even Democratic-controlled state houses don't have free reign when it comes to overhauling gun laws. Well, Colorado, you have the Air Force Academy there. You have a lot of conservative it's a very, a lot of military people there, so you're not going to take away the guns in Colorado. Yeah, it ain't. Plus, hunting, and you're not going to take away the guns in Colorado. And it's not clear yet if either of the two Minnesota gun measures can get through the Senate and to make it to the desk of Waltz, who has pledged to sign them if they do. They aren't in the Senate's version of the public safety bill, which passed earlier this month. Mueller said supporters hope the red flag and background check provisions survive when a conference committee negotiates the final version. While House Democrats had enough of a majority to pass the overall bill, including the gun safety provisions, Senate Democrats hold only one seat majority. Some Democrat senators from the rural districts where hunting, shooting, sports, and gun ownerships are traditions have avoided taking stands. Rob DeBar, a lobbyist with the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, said in an interview that he's pretty confident there won't be enough votes for the Senate in the Senate for the red flag law. He said he does expect the Senate's support, however, for the background check language that's stronger than the current law, but doesn't go as far as the House bill. Democratic Majority Leader Jamie Long of Minneapolis said recent school shootings show the need for both provisions. He recounted to reporters how his young daughter came home a few weeks ago and told him about the shelter-in-place drill that they had conducted at her preschool. We have gun violence epidemic in this country and in our state, and right now we are putting this on our kids. And we shouldn't, Long said. We are at a point where adults need to step up and protect our kids and make sure that we are doing everything we can to keep them safe. Great point. Great point. Yeah, doing everything we can to keep them safe. How about, hear me out, how about protecting the schools? No, anyone? I mean, hear me out. So you want to get rid of guns. So then people who follow the law would get rid of their guns. I would imagine people who don't follow the law are still going to keep their guns because they don't follow the law. So it doesn't matter if you change the law. And then if you take away the guns from everybody who's trying to be legal, then, you have a lot of bad guys with guns and not a lot of good guys with guns. Furthermore, if you really care that much about protecting kids, why are our schools so open? Why are we able to just walk into a school? You can't just walk into a bank as freely. I mean, I guess some banks you can. But I mean, airports are more secure. Almost all government buildings are more secured. Courthouses are secured. Why can't we secure our schools? I feel like we should be able to secure our schools. It has nothing to do with taking away guns from people. Just secure the schools. It's not that hard. Okay. While Long wasn't optimistic about getting Republican votes for the bill, he noted that the GOP Tennessee Governor Bill Lee has proposed something similar to a red flag law, and that red flag laws have won support in some red states. They're not good ideas. Lee frames his proposal as temporary mental health orders of protection and says they are not red flag laws. But top Republicans there don't agree, and its chances are fading. Tennessee has become a flashpoint in the national debate in the wake of last month's shooting at the Nashville school that killed 3 children and 3 adults. The lead Republican on the Public Safety Committee, Representative Paul Navanti of Elk River, said at a news conference that the red flag proposal would violate due process and Second Amendment rights. He said the background check provision, which would apply to more kinds of gun transfers than current state law requires, would create strict and impractical hurdles for law-abiding citizens who want to sell, give, or loan guns to others. The public safety bill also includes money for recruiting police officers, changes to the probation system aimed at reducing recidivism, increased penalties for fentanyl dealers, and grants for local nonprofits for violence prevention programs. This is a transformational bill that positively impacts the safety of every Minnesotan across the state, Mueller said. Alrighty. Really sad, the state of the country that we're heading to. I think this is terrible. What are some old Betty with clipboard will stop anybody? Yeah. What's some old Betty with a clipboard will stop anybody? Well, not many people, but if you get a security officer, so like I was a physics teacher at a Jewish school, and I'll tell you what, that thing was secured like Fort Knox. Nobody is coming in there. We had armed security guards. We had that were trained in Krav Maga. We had like multiple fences. You weren't coming in or out of that school without being buzzed in by the correct people at the correct time. Guns don't kill people. I kill people. That's one of my dad's favorite lines. We've already had 2 shootings, 4 fake bomb threats, and 2 knife fights between 5th grade to 9th grade. Sounds like a great public school system you're in. That's another reason to get private schooling. Yeah, we already read that one. Yeah. 3D printers go brr. Yeah, exactly. Get rid of the guns, get the 3D printers going. Alrighty, let's check out what the BBC is talking about. BBC. Okay. We're running out of weapons on the Ukraine front. Oh my God, I'm so sick of sending Ukrainians more weapons that aren't even going to Ukraine. Like half of the weapons that we send to Ukraine end up in Russia to fight Ukraine. Make it make sense to me. We've already proven that. Okay, let's click on it. Let's do it. Let's hurt my head. Why not? Why not? I don't like having no headache. I love having a headache. Ukraine war. Bakhmut defenders worry about losing support. Let's get into it. Okay, I do like it as a tagline by Jonathan Beale, so we know who this author is. I do like that. A year ago, Voldemar and his men were firing all 40 barrels of their BN-21 Rad rocket launcher in one go. Now they can only afford to fire a few at a time at Russian targets. We haven't got enough ammunition for our weapons, he explains. His unit, the 17th Tank Battalion, is still being called on to provide fire support to Ukrainian forces despite just desperately clinging on the edges of Bakhmut, the eastern Ukrainian city, which Russia has spent months trying to capture. Russian forces are getting even closer to their goal of taking the city, but at enormous cost. While we're waiting on a line of trees hidden from view, Volodymyr receives a call to fire his rocket launcher at a Russian mortar position about 15 kilometers away. His men remove the branches, camouflaging their vehicles. They drive towards an empty field about a kilometer away and quickly work out the range. They elevate the rocket barrels towards the target while out of sight, a Ukrainian drone hovering above assesses their accuracy. They're told their first rocket misses by about 50 meters. So they adjust the elevation and fire another two and quickly return to the trees for cover. This time they're told they've hit target. Volodymyr, however, is frustrated they can't do more. We could have provided more support to our guys who were dying there, he says. Ukraine has already burned through its own stock of Grad ammunition, so is relying on rockets sourced from other countries. I'm sorry. I don't recall you being part of the United Nations. I also don't recall Congress in the United States declaring war against Russia. So why are you relying on us? Why? Don't go to war if you can't win. Okay. Volodymyr says supplies are coming from the Czech Republic, Romania, and Pakistan. He complains that rockets originating from Pakistan are not of good quality. Yeah, how dare these countries who are giving you free supplies not give you their best supplies? Ukraine's call for more weapons, shock, and ammunition has only become louder louder the longer the war is waged on. The focus is now preparing for a major offensive. But at the same time, Ukraine is still having to expend huge resources on just maintaining its position. Facts. That's called losing. That's called losing. You're losing. Oh my God. The world is falling apart. Despite the recent arrival of modern weapons like tanks and armored vehicles, Ukraine remains heavily reliant on its older Soviet-era arsenal. This article gets worse and worse the more I read. The Russian-made Buk air defense system, which can target aircraft, drones, and missiles, is still one of its prized possessions. We get rare access to C1 further along the front line, also hidden in a wooded area. This sophisticated weaponry has helped prevent Russia gaining control of the skies. Joseph, the Buk leader, tells me that the target number one for Russia. Okay, hold on. Oh, it tells me it's target number one for Russia. This explains the extreme care taken to protect it. The long vehicle with its radar dome is buried in a deep trench covered with camouflage netting. On top are 2 gray missiles. Normally it carries 4. Why are we telling the news this? Shouldn't this be secret if you're trying to keep it secret? A cache of classified United States documents were leaked online earlier this month. Maps, charts, and photos revealing detailed intelligence gathered on the war. I asked Joseph if these were correct in highlighting the acute shortage of Buck missiles. No, that's not true. He insists. Yeah, ignore the classified intelligence that was being handed all around the United States military because it's all fake. Don't believe your eyes. But he does admit that the Buck is proving hard to maintain and Ukraine needs more. No, it's not true. We're not in a shortage, but we do need more ammunition. So, I mean, but not a shortage. Not a shortage. Do we need more? Yes, but not a shortage. Then he goes on to say, we haven't got enough. Then how is it not true? He says, parts break down and we haven't got spares because the factories that produce them are not in Ukraine. Well, that wasn't smart now, was it? I'm literally kidding. So Joseph doesn't only dispute some of the contents of those leaked U.S. intelligence reports, he questions whether they have really revealed any secrets. Okay, wait, what? Joseph doesn't only dispute some of the content, he questions whether they revealed any secrets. Why you always lying? You always lying. Why you always lying? Oh my God. Why are you always... Okay. Why should we be angry with the Americans? He asked. Because they gave information the Russians have had for 20 years? Ridiculous. Russia, he believes, has always known about the capabilities of the Ukraine's armed forces. Then why are we locking a man up? If this isn't secret information, why is he going to prison? Okay, but Russia still does not know the timing or place of Ukraine's expected offensive. It will be key to taking back territory and relieving some of the pressure being felt along Ukraine's 800-mile front. Whether it happens, Russia will have to redirect some of its forces, but Ukraine too is having to arm and equip new units to conduct that offensive. Both sides are struggling to feed the front line. On another location near Bakhmut, Ukrainian troops from its 80th Brigade are already expending hundreds of artillery rounds a day to try to repel Russia's advances. They are already using some of the weapons supplied by the West. Serhiy and his men are operating a British-made L-119 light artillery gun, but Sarai says they too are having to ration rounds. He says they are firing an average of 30 rounds per day. We've got enough people for the moment, he says, but we need ammunition. Ammunition is most important. I asked Sarai if this is the make or break year for Ukraine. If we go on the offensive this year and retake our land, then we'll win. Okay. Well, sure. But if that doesn't happen, then we don't have the resources for the war to go on for another 5 to 10 years. So let me get this straight. You're like this close to winning, but if you don't win, then you're going to lose. I'm sure. Okay. Volodymyr, the commander of the Grad, is even more blunt. This country is exhausted. The economy is too, he says. And he fears that if Ukraine's actions on the battlefield are not decisive this year, then Western support may falter. Facts. We are also worried our Western allies are getting tired of helping us. Double facts. You're not wrong there, buddy. You are not wrong there. Let's read some of these comments. I don't believe Russian or Samantha P is one of my favorite commenters. I love Samantha P comments. I don't believe Russian or Ukraine citizens want war. This is all concocted by globalists that want white nations to start killing white nations. I don't think you're wrong, Samantha. Hi, Diane. They want us to go from 6% down until they have no one that can genuinely give them a run for their money. Connie should go on Law and Order. We call him Rebel here on this show. But yes, that would be fun. I wonder who he would go against. Lies, Russia and every one of them are friends. They all have lunch together at some point and when they can. Probably. Does Muppet have a sidewalk he can throw himself on? You're so weird. Yes! They dominate the tubes. Oh, wait. Okay. I'm saying these things, they don't have to show news over here in America. Yeah, if you have any articles that you want to send us, some foreign articles, we'd love to read it. We'd love to get stuff that we're not seeing over here. Cool. Lauren, is it true you're not really Catholic Italian? Well, my dad's Catholic, Irish Catholic, and my mom is Polish Jewish. But my grandma doesn't really identify with Poland anymore because she's mad that Hitler was able to get into Poland. She feels like the Poles kind of just gave her and her family over to Hitler, so she doesn't really identify with Polish anymore. Alrighty, let's check out other articles from the BBC. We were out of food and water race to leave Sudan before ceasefire. Whoa. Let's check out this article. This looks terrifying. We were out of food and water, raced to leave Sudan before the ceasefire ends. So we had been talking about this last week, just to kind of recap. We went over last week. The Sudanese were being ran by an autocracy type government, and so there was a coup, and the coup took over, and so there's like military control, and then there is also another faction of like the people's control, and they want to get the power back to the people and make it more of a republic or a democracy. And there is now clashing on who owns the government, whether it's the military coup or this people's faction. And so it's been breaking out into gunfights, and that's where we are now. And now let's jump into the article. Am I North Polish? Yes, that explains my pointy ears. It explains why I'm so short. It explains why I'm so tiny. It explains my annoyingly high-pitched voice. It's because I'm not only Polish, I'm North Polish. Anyway, let's continue into this article. Element of discretion over who gets help in Sudan. Number 10 says the eligibility of who can be evacuated from Sudan has not changed, but those working to evacuate British nationals have some element of discretion over who they assist, Downing Street said. British passport holders and their immediate family with existing UK entry clearance are the only people being told they are eligible. When Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's spokesperson was asked what exactly discretion means in this context, he said the government has been clear that people should not go to the airport unless you are a British passport holder or their dependent, but added that they also want to empower people on their grounds to make decisions in extremely difficult circumstances. The spokesperson also told reporters there are no current plans to create a specific resettlement scheme for anyone fleeing Sudan, but the government is still reviewing the situation. Airstrikes are reported in Khartoum. Sudan's military has been carrying out airstrikes against the Parliamentary Raid Support Forces, or the RSF, in the capital of Khartoum, despite a ceasefire being in force. The AFP news agency is reporting warplanes have been seen over the city's northern suburbs, while fighters on the grounds have been exchanging artillery and heavy machine gun fire. It quotes witnesses as saying. Meanwhile, Sudan News has tweeted that 3 civilians were injured while a projectile hit a residential block in Khartoum. It did not say who was behind the attack. Very, very sad. They're saying that the British government is asleep at the wheel. Liberal Democrat leader Ed Davey has accused British government of being asleep at the wheel when it comes to the evacuations of Sudan. Other countries were way better than us, he said. The British response has been too slow, just as we saw in Afghanistan with terrible costs. The British government seems to be asleep at the wheel every time they're asked to step up. Securing a long-standing ceasefire will require regional powers to be more involved in negotiations, a specific expert told the BBC. James Horner, former deputy director for the Horn of Africa at the International Crisis Group think tank, says the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt are all, to one extent or another, backers of both the Sudanese armed forces and the Parameter Rapid Support Force. He explains none of these nations have shown much of an inclination to bring an end to the fighting or even ask for as much in the way of a ceasefire. Asked by the BBC News why they have been quiet given the possibility of the conflict spilling over into neighboring countries, Horner says the conflict is seen somewhat existential for these regional benefactors of both sides. Horner adds there is an ongoing battle for control over Sudan in the wake of the end of the Omar al-Bashir 3 decades of authoritarian rule. His regime was toppled in 2019. So, it is kind of interesting because, when you see like Ukraine and Russia fighting, the other countries near them quickly take a side. They're like, oh, Ukraine, we're on the Ukrainian side, or oh, we're on the Russian side, yada, yada. But when it's an internal conflict like that, you just have two internal forces that are wanting control of a government. It's kind of hard, I would imagine, as the leader of one country to back one side versus the other. I didn't get to know her. Samantha, U.S. Medical is effed for poor women. She was misgendered for decades and ended up dying of type 1 diabetes they were never diagnosed with. Oh, that's so sad. Sorry that you lost somebody. Yeah. War is a way to demolish place for future plans. That's true. That is true. They never destroyed the big and beautiful buildings in Ukraine. Interesting. Okay. Alrighty, let's move on to the next article. Help me choose an article. Let me show you all these pretty headlines. I haven't seen anything on this. So the leaker stuff, I think this is interesting. Let's check this out. Philippines, Paradise Islands caught in the U.S.-China crosshairs. Let me go ahead and put this back. All right. To be fair, war is our business. We have to have war. Yeah, I think we do when it comes to our nation's strife. I don't know how we benefit in Ukraine winning the Ukraine-Russian conflict, and so I don't think that it is necessary for us to be involved in that war, considering both nations are corrupt autocracies. So, but yeah. Okay. The largest ever military exercises between the United States and the Philippines are drawing to a close. They began just days after China's military rehearsed a blockade of Taiwan, a display the U.S. called disproportionate, with tensions high in the region. A handful of people on a few small islands find themselves caught between the two superpowers. Life is fragile in Itbayat. Itbayat, Itbayat. The steep limestone cliffs and rolling hills that make up this tiny island on the northern edge of the Philippines rise out of the Luzon Strait. Even on a good day, strong waves of the Azure Seas toss around tiny fishing boats, hoping to hook some of the islanders' favorite flying fish. Nearly 3,000 native evidence fishermen and farmers have survived here in the face of earthquakes, typhoons, and drought, but now they face a new and different threat. Their island home risks being caught in the conflict between the United States and China as the two militaries skirt even closer to each other to gain the upper hand on the South China Sea. At the heart of the issue is Taiwan. China's claims over the self-governing island are growing louder, even as the United States' commitment to defend it appears to be deepening. And these islands, Bayat and Basco, that make up the far-flung Philippine archipelago of Bastanes, are in the line of crossfire. So I'm going to show the map too. I'm sorry that I'm butchering all these names. I'm trying. Here's the map. So these are the islands that we're talking about. These two islands are here, South China Sea. So this area right here. Okay. They appear to be mere dots in the ocean that surround them, but their proximity to Taiwan is just 96 miles from Ibayat has made them both strategic allies and vulnerable foes. Analysts often talk of rising tensions between the two superpowers, but what it is like to live in the biggest flashpoint between Beijing and Washington. Ibayat can often be cut off for weeks. It certainly looks impenetrable. Small ports are carved out of the cliffs. Getting to a boat involves clambering down steep steps cut into rock face. The color of the water hugging the land is a deep turquoise, and so clear you can watch small fish play along the coral. It feels untouched by man, other than the indigenous community who've made it their home. Few have televisions, a network of relayed messages from house to house or through the church congregation is often more reliable than that patchy phone signal. But they don't need TV news or social media to tell them about the turbulent relations between the United States and China, which threatens their shores. It's closer than it has ever been. Crouched down, eyes fixed through the viewfinders of their weapons and heads to toe in camouflage, are the members of the United States Army's 25th Infantry Division training on the islands of Bosco. They were practicing to defend the island from potential aggressors. The exercise was part of the largest combat drills ever held between the United States and the Philippines. Out at sea, the mission was controlled from the USS Miguel Keith, a naval ship, while V-22 Osprey aircraft, I know all about that one, hovered over the island, much to the amazement of the locals who grabbed their mobile phones to film. The simulation even involved rocket launchers being shipped to their beaches using amphibious landing craft. The goal of our campaign in this region is to deter conflict from ever occurring, says Major General Joseph Ryan, the commanding general of the 25th Infantry Division. We don't want a war with the People's Republic of China. We do not want that. We do not desire that. We are not provoking that. A war with the People's Republic of China is good for nobody. But he admits the two forces are sending a message. The message sent is we're ready, we're capable, we're prepared, we've got a great partnership here, and we mean business. The two sides are certainly arming themselves, as is the whole of Asia. China is still the region's biggest spender on new military hardware, with this year's defense budget at its highest it's ever been, around $224 billion. The United States, in turn, has been keen to show off its capabilities, holding even more military drills with its allies throughout the region, including Japan, South Korea, and Australia. Yikes, we are heading towards a global disaster. Bangs is here to with me blocked. You're blocked? Are you blocked? Why are you blocked? I didn't block you. They rattle their sabers and then release a video of the Supreme Leader Rocket Man playing with fireworks. It's all a sideshow while they grift. Interesting thought, hopefully. So I've already interviewed Martin Shkreli, and we've talked about the pharmaceutical issue multiple times. He didn't do anything illegal when it comes to raising the prices. Good morning. Yeah, okay, but I want to do it again. Okay, all right. Good morning, Illumitami. Okay, let's move on to the next. Let's move on to the next article, shall we? We shall. Let's look here. Looking at all of these articles right now. I'll let you see the screen. So, Pope gives women historic right to vote at a meeting. Can't imagine we'll gain much more. All right. These are watch police save 84-year-old man from burning car. That's kind of cool. Could California storm cause another gold rush? Freddie Mercury's missing camera reveals journalist last month. Oh. Kind of interesting. Why the happiest place on earth is suing Florida. Fiends to play Macbeth. Yeah, let's do this one. All right. It is. Boop. It is an image etched in the Myanmar's collective memory of repression and loss. A middle-aged man holding a camera lifted off his feet by a shot fired by a soldier at point-blank range as protesters flee in panic. He rolls onto his back, fatally wounded, still holding his camera up in one hand. Is that what that image is? Oh, wow. A British photographer would later win a Pulitzer Prize for capturing that moment. The man was Kenji Nagi, a veteran Japanese video journalist. He was killed on 27 September 2007 at the height of the so-called Saffron Revolution mass protest. His camera was missing for 16 years. It's now resurfaced, bringing some closure to the family who flew to Bangkok this week to receive it. So kind of cool. It's not really much of a story. Let's go on. So let's go to Gateway Pundit. We haven't gone there in a while. Gateway Pundit. See what they have to say. Oh, I think I remember why though. I'm pretty sure like if you click on the article, it doesn't let you read it fully. I'm pretty sure that was. Let's check this out. Let's see. Can we read it fully? Yeah, it looks like we'll read it. Good. Okay. HHS whistleblower Tara Lee Rodas testified today in front of the House Judiciary Committee. Rodas told Congress that today in the United States, children will work at slaughterhouses, factories, and restaurants to pay their debt to smugglers, traffickers, and cartels. And the United States government has become the middleman in a large multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation ran by bad actors seeking to profit off the lives of children. Let's watch this.
Good afternoon, Chairman McClintock, Ranking Member Japal, and distinguished members of the committee. It is an honor to be here. I thank you for the invitation to share my testimony. My goal is to inspire action to safeguard the lives of migrant children, including the staggering 85,000 that are missing. Today, children will work overnight shifts at slaughterhouses, factories, restaurants to pay their debts to smugglers and traffickers. Today, children will be sold for sex. Today, children will call a hotline to report they are being abused, neglected, and trafficked, and we don't know if they're going to get the help they need. For nearly a decade, unaccompanied children have been suffering in the shadows, and I have to confess, I knew nothing about their suffering until 2021, when I volunteered to help the Biden administration with the crisis at the southern border. As part of Operation Artemis, I was deployed to the Pomona Fairplex Emergency Intake Site in California to help HHS, Office of Refugee Resettlement, reunite children with sponsors in the United States. I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with recruiting in home country, smuggling to the US border, and ends when ORR delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking. Now, whether it's intentional or not, it could be argued that the United States government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation that is run by bad actors seeking to profit off of the lives of children. As for me, my interest is the safety of the children. I do not view this as a political issue. I view this as a humanitarian issue. I assure you, my motives are the highest and best. I want the children protected. So I want to tell you some of what I witnessed personally at the Pomona Fairplex. I saw vulnerable indigenous children from Guatemala who speak Mayan dialects and cannot speak Spanish. That means they cannot ask for help in English. They cannot ask for help in Spanish. They become captives of their sponsors. I have sat with case managers as they've cried to tell me the horror of what has happened to children as they make the journey to this country. I saw apartment buildings where 20, 30, and 40 unaccompanied minors have been released. I saw sponsors trying to simultaneously sponsor children from multiple ORR sites at one time. I saw sponsors using multiple addresses to obtain sponsorships of children. And I saw numerous cases of children in debt bondage, and the child knew they had to stay with the sponsor until the debt was paid. Realizing that we were not offering the children the American dream, but instead putting them in modern day slavery with wicked overlords was a terrible revelation. A terrible revelation. These children are a captive victim population with no access to law enforcement or knowledge of their rights. They are extorted, abused, neglected. And that is why I blew the whistle in 2021. I witnessed firsthand the horrors of child trafficking and exploitation. My life will never be the same after what I saw. But I have hope because I'm counting on you. It's my hope that you'll take action to end this crisis, to safeguard the lives of these vulnerable children.
That is so sad. I mean, great comments from some of you guys about what's the correlation between the rainbow flags outside of child protection offices and the number of missing children, right? Right? There seems to be a correlation. FBI harassing profile trad Catholics. Yeah, pro-life trad Catholics, like that guy with the 7 kids and throwing him in, I mean, and this is going on. Exactly. It's really sad. It's unbelievably horrific to think about the child trafficking that's going on. little tiny thing that I want to address that's not nearly as important as this, but it's just in my chat. I appreciate Manda for being here. I appreciate everyone who is here for being here. Whether or not we have gotten along in the past is kind of irrelevant. I just want to make good content for all of you. I hope you could all enjoy it. And I hope that you could all enjoy being here. It really doesn't, even if you guys want to fight with each other in chat, that's fine by me. But I like having Manda here. The more the merrier. Any settlement people. Heck, I would like to interview Brett if he would like that at some point. But you know, okay. And this is a lot about what exactly? I don't think you're talking to me, because you know I sure as heck wouldn't block you. I don't block nobody. Western governments are decriminalizing drugs, lowering the age of consent, and attacking parental rights. Who are they catering to? The devil. The devil. That's who they're catering to. We can't take I'm every child. If you really care, then you wouldn't give a jump the line pass to those with children. You promote the trafficking of children. We can't take in every child. If you really care, then you wouldn't give a jump the line pass to those with children. Okay, interesting. Okay, I'm so. Yeah, thanks. Awesome. All right, let's continue on with reading this really important tweet. So that video came from a tweet that read, "Today's children will work shifts in slaughterhouses." Oh, that's what we already read. Okay. So is this what Joe Biden meant when he wants to finish the job in his second term? TOTUS told Rep. Andy Biggs, there was no one with law enforcement experience overseeing where children are going. Here's the testimony of HHS employee. We already saw that. She explains in detail the disgusting abuse. And then here in this article has some of her written work as well. I'm going to go ahead and just include this article in the chat so that you guys could see that if you want to get a hold of it. Okay. When you tell criminals if you have a child, you can skip the line, what do you expect? Facts, right? Yeah, you know that they're going to be bringing children in as a means to skip the line. Exactly. That's such a fair point. Okay, let's go to a new article. I thought that was a great article. Love the Gateway Pundit. You have to love them. We had talked about this work. I'm just going to share my screen really quick because I just kind of think it's funny. I already am. We already talked about this earlier today, and we were talking about how he pled guilty and how Steve Bannon didn't. But I do like how the phrasing of the title, Communist New York Court puts triple amputee and war veteran Brian Kolfage in prison for 4 years for building U.S. border wall. I mean, true, it's not really for building the wall. It's more for the fraud aspect. But no, you are right. I mean, I guess if you did build the wall, then where's the fraud? I don't know. I didn't read the case. Let's see. Let's check this out. We were right, says every newspaper ever. But I really do like Jim Hoft, the person, and Joe Hoft. See, you can see Joe Hoft. Joe Hoft actually writes the majority of these articles. Jim and Joe are a pair of twins. And I'm actually friends with Joe. We text. He's cool. Or not Joe. I'm friends with Jim. But they put in so much work into this newspaper. It's for years. It it was just a blog, you know, and he just put a lot of effort into it, Joe, and he would write it every day. He does like almost all these articles himself. It's quite impressive. I'm going to put it backstage. Boop. The latest Twitter file, number 21, provides, so if you haven't been following, there's been the Twitter files in which, what's his name? There's some Democrat journalist, but he's been doing a really good job of being honest. I'm totally blanking on his name right now, but he's been talking about all of the things that Twitter had been covering up before Elon Musk bought it and all of the issues that happened in the 2016 election. So, okay. The latest Twitter file, number 21, provides more evidence that the narrative that the Russian accounts were materially impacting U.S. elections was a lie. This is exactly what the Gateway Pundit said years ago. Before the 2016 election, the Hillary and Obama gang was scared that President Trump might win and then look into their crimes. So they created the lie that candidate Trump was tied to Russians. The fact that the Obama administration, including Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, had allowed the sale of significant amounts of United States uranium to the Russians for millions of dollars. In return, the Clintons received millions, and we don't know how much the rest of the Obama administration received. The action is referred to as Uranium One. The Obama administration participated in a crime spree. It set up the Trump administration, gave billions to Iran, opened the border, created sanctuary cities, backed corrupt Soros activities, and now we participated in human trafficking of minors. Conservatives are always looking for ways to boycott more spending away from woke corporations. I think that's a link. Okay. These people are sick and didn't want to get found out, so they made up the Russian collusion. To make up their false narrative appear real, those involved in the Russian collusion lies went to Twitter and asked Twitter to identify Russian accounts interfering with the 2016 election. The Obama and Clinton lackeys then used this information to claim Russian interference. The Gateway Pundit in February of 2018 determined that the Russian bots that the left saying interfered with the 2016 election only garnered 175,000 retweets. It was all a lie. The latest Twitter file thread dug deeper into this narrative. When first requested to list Russian accounts by the corrupt Senator Warren, Twitter only found 179 accounts. Twitter was forced to change how it identified Russians, and the result was to include basically anyone as a Russian. Even Green Party candidate Jill Stein was labeled as a Russian. It's kind of funny. The corrupt and dishonest big media use this BS to push the Trump-Russia BS narrative. Okay, that's pretty funny. It literally uses BS twice in one sentence. Look at that. Y'all see that? It's not just me. Y'all see this? BS to BS. I love it. It's all BS over here. It was all a lie. I agree, Joe. I like Joe. I'm going to include this article for y'all, especially because it has a lot of the Twitter links in it. I think y'all enjoy it. Y'all enjoy now, you hear? Okay, let's I don't know what this video is. Let's check it out.
The United States is infested with
foreign forces at work in our politics.
He says that he has a list of
600 Twitter accounts that appear to be linked to the Russian government. That's a lie. These Kremlin-linked accounts, these Kremlin-linked accounts, these Kremlin-linked accounts, Russian-linked accounts, Kremlin-linked accounts, a foreign influence, Kremlin-oriented Twitter accounts, Kremlin-linked Twitter accounts, Russian-linked Twitter accounts, impersonating Americans.
They are every day playing on social media. There's a website called Hamilton 68 that measures
this Russian influence tracker on Twitter.
The Russian dashboard is a real-time dashboard of Russian influence.
The Russian networks that we monitor.
accounts allegedly linked.
Okay, we get it. It's a series of lies. Okay. A couple of Clemson professors became experts in the let's call everything a Russian lie. Yeah, then after years of pushing the Russian bot lie, one Clemson professor said that the Russian trolls are not as prevalent as you think. The Gateway Pundit was right. I love Joe. And again, as we uncover the truth, individuals at Twitter, corrupt Senator Warren, and the rest of his gang and so-called experts are now properly identified as people who cannot be trusted and never should be again. Boom! Take that, Elizabeth Warren. I love it. I love it. Good morning, Anne-Marie. Wow, I really messed that up. Ed Ramirez, good morning. Ruru, good morning. Diane, good morning. JVL L100, classic fan club president. Rachel Maddow, Tucker Carlson, Don Lemon, Sean Hannity, all total asses. Well, I do like your eclectic pairing of Democrats and Republicans to bash. I could appreciate that. I like Tucker Carlson. I basically agree with you on the other three, though. Not a huge Hannity fan. Sorry, Hannity. What is the CIA or FBI? Corrupt Democrat organizations that used to be corrupt Republican organizations. LOL. The propaganda op made the liberal. I work with Scream on the phone like a little girl. It was hilarious. Alrighty. I love that. Let's check out one last article for the day. Love the Gateway Pundit. Great. We need to go to them more often. We were right. I love that. Ooh, I love a good Swalwell story. You don't get to say that ish. Eric Swalwell throws a fit after John. I love Eric Swalwell fits. Let's go into it. Farter McGee, let's see what you have to say. Y'all seen the video of Swalwell farting, right? If you haven't, I highly recommend you look it up because it is one of the funniest things. If I ever fart on Lauren DeLaguna, I promise you I will own it. I will own that fart. I will look at the camera. I will smile. I will say, I just farted or something along those lines. There is no way in hell I'm just going to keep talking and pretend like I didn't fart. Like it's just not going to happen. Alrighty. You don't get to say that ish. Eric Swalwell throws fit after GOP congressman brings up Swalwell's checkered past with Yum Yum. Y'all know about Fang Fang, right? You don't know about Swalwell and Fang Fang? He literally slept with a Chinese spy for years. And he's on the Foreign Intelligence Committee. Oh, I don't think he is. I think he got kicked off recently, but he was. Oh, he is on the intelligence. Okay. The House Judiciary Subcommittee on Immigration, Integrity, Security, and Enforcement held a hearing on Wednesday focused on child migrant crisis caused by Joe Biden's lawless immigration policies. Representative Eric Swalwell, Democrat of California /China. What, Joe? Joe, this is why I love the Gateway Pundit. Check this out. Democrat of California /China. Are they wrong? Are they wrong? No, they're not wrong. Gateway Pundit is so funny. Threw a fit after Congressman Troy Neal's Republican Texas reminded him of his Chinese spy past. As the Gateway Pundit previously reported, Swalwell started a sexual relationship with Chinese spy and honeypot Fang Fang in 2012. Fang Fang was a blunder for Swalwell and other Democrat candidates. Before his confrontation with Nell, Swalwell was bullying border advocate Shana Rodriguez. In New York Post reported Rodriguez was at the hearing to testify regarding migrant children being exploited and forced into the labor market. Rodriguez claimed to have witnessed such abuse during more than 36 visits to the United States-Mexican border. Instead of trying to learn about the exploitation, Swalwell instead spent his question time haranguing Rodriguez regarding her presence during the January 6, 2021 protest. Could you imagine carrying more about grannies in the Capitol than children being exploited for labor and even worse causes. You care more about January 6th. The priorities of our representatives are so messed up. Another Texas lawmaker tried to stop Swalwell's harassment of Rodriguez, but was unsuccessful. Then Nels stepped in and caused Swalwell to melt down. Confrontation begins at 40 seconds. Ooh, we had to watch this. Time to watch this ish. Why are you not playing for me? Play. Hold on, let me share with y'all. Yeah, to see it. It's not expanding. I keep clicking the expand button. Expand, but it's not expanding.
Experience. I couldn't understand why my gate surrounding in VWI was surrounded by guardsmen, and how we as a whole, everyone that was on that plane, were threatened to be removed. I could not understand because again.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Rodriguez, I apologize that you had to. You're here for a hearing on the border. They don't want to talk about a border. Mr. Swalwell is down there. Obviously, everybody knows he's made some comments. He's got a checkered past. He's alleged relationships.
A checkered past? I would ask.
It's my time.
Mr.
Alleged affairs, relationships with
No.
Yum
Sir,
Yum.
you don't get to say that.
He had alleged relationships with Yum Yum.
I asked the gentleman's words be taken down. You don't get to say
Mr.
that.
Chairman,
Pal.
we asked that the
words be taken down.
Oh, we're rewatching that. We're rewatching that.
Rodriguez, I apologize that you had to. You're here for a hearing on the border. They don't want to talk about a border. Mr. Swalwell is down there. Obviously, everybody knows he's made some comments. He's got a checkered past. He's alleged relationships.
A checkered past? I would ask.
It's my time. Alleged affairs, relationships with
No.
Yum
Sir,
Yum.
you don't get to say that.
He had alleged relationships with Yum Yum.
I asked the gentleman's words be taken down. You don't get to say
Mr.
that.
Chairman,
Pal.
we asked that the gentleman.
Why doesn't he get to say that? It's true. He said, I apologize that you're here for a hearing on the border. Democrats don't want you to talk about the border. Mr. Swalwell down here, obviously everyone knows he has made comments. He's got a checkered past. His alleged relationship, and then he was cut off. Swalwell says, I'm sorry, a checkered past. Nell says, it's my time. Alleged affairs, relationship with Yum Yum. Swalwell, you don't get to say that ish. That's not true. Nels, he had an alleged relationship with Yum Yum. Now he's angry. Wait, what? Do I keep cutting it off at the best part?
Well, I am here. He's making.
I asked the words of the gentleman be taken down as casting a slur on another member.
Let us have some order and civility here, and we will take up the issues one by one.
Mr. Chairman, I ask that the words of the gentleman be taken down as expressing a slur on another member.
I join in that request.
And the specific words were?
He mentioned that Mr. Swalwell had a checkered past. I don't have the rest of the exact words, but it was a direct slur on a member of this committee. That is not acceptable.
Actually, I think it is.
I'm going to consult the precedents and take temporary recess.
Thank you.
Would the gentleman wish to withdraw his words?
Yes, and I would like to rephrase. This is the same member that was removed from the Intelligence Committee that he previously served on. So now let's get right down to the serious business as it relates to our southern border.
Well, so he had to withdraw his statement that he had relations with Yum Yum. I mean, technically it's wrong. Her name is Fang Fang, not Yum Yum. But I guess I can see why that senator thought of her as Yum Yum, because she was kind of yummy looking. But that's kind of what the point of a honeypot is. But anyway, I just want to thank y'all for being here. It is good to see you, Sue. I love seeing you here, and thank you so much for letting me talk to your partner last night. It was lovely meeting them. Rachel's Ghost is about to be on in just a few minutes if you want to go check out her channel. I interviewed them last night, and it was a great stream last night, so I really appreciate that. If you have just some quick channel announcements, quick things that I just want to wrap up really quick, definitely hit that like button for me, please. It helps with the algo. Stay when I close the stream and leave a comment. That really helps. Especially comment with what you want us to talk about in the news the next day. And then also we have memberships. If you become a member, you get to figure out what podcast I'm going on next week with over 4 million subs. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. Have a blessed day. Mwah. Bye.